Hi everybody. I want to talk about the whole threat of going to court and being found in contempt of court. This is not official legal advice. I'm not an attorney, and it's different from state to state, district to district, whatever. But the rules for contempt of court are largely the same no matter where you go. And I want to talk about this because it's a very common threat by narcissists and other emotional abusers. So there's always the threat of court. I'll take you to court, blah, blah, blah. They're going to throw you in jail, this and the other. And I want to talk about just how empty of a threat contempt of court is. It's a very, very, very empty threat. Not completely empty, but if it's a threat that's made off the cuff of the sleeve, then it's pretty empty. So what is contempt of court? Contempt of court means that you have knowingly violated a court order, egregiously violated it, refused to resolve the situation, and you continue to disobey the court order. There's pretty much a 5-pronged test to determine if contempt has indeed been conducted. And I hope I can remember all of these. So in order to prove contempt, the burden of proof is going to be on your toxic ex. That means that they have to prove that you have purposefully behaved in what's called a contemporaneous action. Contemporaneous meaning contempting, right? So what they have to do, they have to show that there is a court order that exists. They have to show that you are aware that the order exists. They have to show proof, like real third-party proof, not just them. It can't just be hearsay. They have to show proof that you've violated the order, which means through like a child advocate or a private investigator or some third-party witness who's willing to sign an affidavit and swear that everything's true and correct, or by showing statements you've made that are verifiable and correct, which is almost never personal conversations, text messages, phone calls, things like that. So they have to show those 3 things first, and then on top of that, they have to show that you were notified that their actions, or they have to show that your actions were contempted. They have to show that you were informed that your actions were contemporaneous. And then step 5, you have to show a willingness to continue in the contemporaneous actions. So I know all of this is a mouthful, but let's review it one more time. They have to show that a court order or agreement exists. They have to show that you're aware of the fact that this order and agreement exists. They have to show proof that comes from a source besides themselves that you conducted yourself in a contemporaneous fashion. They have to show that you were notified that they have to show that you were notified that your actions were contemporaneous, and then they have to show that on top of all of that, you're willing to continue in the contemporaneous behavior and not change your ways and not correct the situation. Even on top of all of that, judges are not really interested in... Good Lord, somebody's passing on the shoulder. People drive crazy this morning. Most judges, if it's something that a normal parent would just do, judges are typically hesitant to award contempt of court against one parent to another, because courts really don't like stirring the pot in an obviously toxic relationship, because when there's a toxic co-parenting situation, judges have long ago figured out that when they pick winners, what they're doing is they're encouraging more conflict and more trips back to court. So if it's not an incident of extreme jeopardy of a child, like child abuse, neglect, starving, sexual abuse, things like that, if it's just, disagreeing in a vitriolic fashion, they're not gonna pick a winner. They're not gonna want to pick a winner. They're gonna want to send you to mediation and make both of you figure it out. They're gonna want to disillusion the two of you about the concept of coming to court to punish the other parent. They're not a disciplinarian. They're there to protect children. They're not there to punish your toxic co-parent for not obeying, right? So even if your toxic co-parent manages to meet all 5 criteria, it's still totally up to the judge to decide what to do. In most of the cases, say for example, you want to take your child to see a mental health professional because they've said that, they're clearly having a distressed existence in 2 households where there's lots of conflict. Obviously, it's affecting the children. You want to take them to see a counselor, and your toxic ex is like, no, I don't agree to this. I'm not going to pay for this. Little Billy does not need counseling. You have to have my approval to take him to counseling. It's right here, right in the court order. Well, okay, take them to get their treatment anyway. Save your receipts. In the previous video, I talked about familywizard.com. Save the expenses and put the expenses on the register. They'll probably refuse them. Do it anyways. And get your child treated first. And because it'll all come out in the wash. So let's say that you do this, you take a kid to see a therapist and get them treated, and your toxic ex happens to know the 5-prong test of being found in contempt. And they're like, okay, they come and they say, according to page 5, section 2 of the divorce decree, you cannot do this. I know you're well aware of this section of the decree. This is contemptible and it needs to stop. Then you either just ignore it, or you don't do something stupid like come back and be like, fuck you, I'm gonna be a good parent, and fuck the decree, this, that, or the other. Fuck you and fuck your control issues, right? You don't want to say something stupid like that. You just want to say, look, little Billy told me that he's unhappy with the homes the way they are. Obviously, you and I have a toxic relationship, but Billy is he's told me that he's struggling. So I'm gonna get him the help he needs. If you want to find me in contempt of court for that, by all means, carry that flag. It'll come out in the wash. Most courts, a court really, really, really does not want to set that dangerous precedent of finding a parent in contempt of providing care for a child. That's a very slippery slope. And again, it's up to the judge sitting in front of the courtroom. It's up to that particular judge and how they feel on that particular day. And as I said before, don't fucking use this as legal advice. Use an attorney for legal advice. Find a really good attorney. I can tell you, a good attorney is worth their weight in gold. I absolutely love my attorney. She's wonderful. I could not have a relationship with my son without her. She's amazing. She's very amazing, and I'm forever grateful for her. And she's sort of helped shape my understanding of the inner workings of courts just a little bit. But again, you know, I'm not somebody who spends all day every day in a courtroom. But these are pretty much the overall themes. Is that when you have a toxic co-parenting situation, judges tend to not want to rule. They don't want to hand down judgments from on high, because they don't want to encourage you to return. They want to discourage you. They want to discourage toxic disagreements from coming to court to have a winner picked. It's not a team sport. They're not there to be a referee. They're there to protect children, not referee your toxic relationship. And it's almost always fair game if you find yourself in court to say, yeah, you know, yeah, we're divorced, yeah, we disagree. I know that's a big shock and a surprise for the court to hear. You know, and just say, I'd like to attempt mediation first before we have a hearing. You know, because I think it's resolvable, but just not by both of us working together. We're not able to resolve this ourselves, and I want to mediate. Most of the time, like I said, the majority of the time, a court's going to respond favorably to a mediation request. And so a threat of being found in contempt and going to court and being thrown in jail, that threat, in the very beginning of this video I said it's a mostly empty threat, and it's because what starts as a threat for contempt and a threat to go to jail comes out in the wash to a mediation, and they have to agree to your terms to the mediation. So that's where that river runs. Threats of going to court, that river can almost always run to mediation. It's beautiful. Now, if mediation fails, then the river runs right back to court. So, and when it goes back to court, here's the other beautiful thing about all of this. Okay, you go to mediation fails. There's a third-party witness as to why the mediation failed. So, you know, if they're trying to play their games and being disagreeable and, you know, trying to manipulate and all of that, they've now done it in front of a trained professional. So they're exposed. A mediation will expose a narcissist and all of their manipulation tactics. It's in the narcissist's best interest to come to an agreement in mediation and to try and hide and to try to be covert. So their games don't really play well in mediation. You always have the right to walk out of a mediation. I've done it. In the end, it came out to be that our mediator himself was not the most competent person in the world, to put it nicely. We had a mediator who would go from one room to from our room to her room, from her room to our room, and get his facts wrong about what the other party was saying. And honestly, I'm wondering if this guy doesn't do it on purpose to help generate legal fees. I don't know. But we had a mediation that did fail, and it was because what was said in one room was not being relayed correctly in the other room. And so that happened. But yeah, at the end of the day, if a mediation fails, you can go back to court and be heard. And you can say, you know, especially if you're the one who requests mediation, you can say, look, I wanted to mediate. You know, I'm being found in, you know, he's wanting to find me in contempt of taking my child to a therapist because I feel that it's beneficial for my child. My child has asked me to go to a therapist. So I'm out of time. Here's my 15 minutes. Please like, comment, or share. I'll see you on another video.